Всем здравствуйте, меня зовут
Good evening. I'm Oleg Abakumov. I'm a therapist,
И сегодня мы
doctor, and pulmonologist, and today we would like to talk about a very interesting topic
протяжении всего
that worries humanity about as long as it exists, how to actually prolong your life. And today I would like to introduce to you our dear speakers, namely David O'Reilly,
по научным исследованиям.
Director, Scientific Research, BAT Group, and
Алексей Москалев,
Aleksey Moskalev,
общества РАН,
leading scientist,
наук,
doctor of medical technologies, a person who published more than 100 articles on longevity and aging. So for the first question, we brought David O'Reilly, and we would like to ask a few questions on tabagism, on smoking, because he, as a representative of a tobacco company, tobacco industry, we really want to know from him. David, tell me please, smoking, it's one of the reasons why people age. It's a reason for different chronic diseases, and in general, this is what decreases your life, your living standards, and the time you live. So I want to ask you that question. Is it possible to live longer while keep smoking?
облегчить состояние человека.
And is it possible to relieve someone's condition? Is it possible to decrease risks from smoking? And second moment, can we say that transition from traditional cigarettes to alternatives, and producers say that these alternatives are less dangerous for human organisms? Will it be more safer? Will it be safer for people?
Director of Scientific Research at BAT. Subject of the conference and today's session is very interesting. Longevity and if it's possible to live forever. It questions the impact of medicines, but with also digital transformations as tools for prolonging life. What I'm going to talk about is longevity, but from a harm reduction perspective. My focus is more on how we use science and innovation to drive tobacco harm reduction. Tobacco harm reduction is a public health strategy that recognizes the harm caused by combustible cigarettes and aims to minimize the health impacts of cigarette smoking by encouraging adult smokers who would otherwise continue to smoke to switch completely to scientifically substantiated, reduced risk alternatives. For tobacco harm reduction to be effective, there needs to be smoke-free alternatives that smokers who would otherwise continue to smoke want to use and access. Next slide, please. At BAT, we are absolutely committed to transforming to reduce our health impact on society. We are clear that our multi-category portfolio has the greatest potential to reduce harm and create value. By continuing to build on our strong consumer-led global brands with purpose, which are founded on the strength and depth of BAT's industry-leading multi-category science and R&D, which I will cover in more detail, and built on our strong ESG foundations. Together, these are playing a key role in accelerating our transformation and are central to building a better tomorrow for all of our stakeholders. Next slide, please. Tobacco harm reduction's importance has been building since the US National Academy of Sciences Institute of Medicine published its seminal report, Clearing the Smoke, in 2001. It laid out a weight of evidence approach to scientifically assess the risk profile of new products, and this is still the bedrock today of tobacco harm reduction science. Importantly, it concluded that the closer the risks and exposures from a reduced risk products are to cessation, the more confident a regulator can be in the public health benefit. This has been central to the FDA's approach, but also our approach at BAT. Next slide, please. Based on the substantial evidence we have been generating over many years, along with the evidence from others, you can see that all of our new category products cluster at the low toxicant end of the continuum. Because these products do not rely on combustion, and with all the evidence we and others have generated, this means that they have the potential to be significantly less harmful to health. We have made great progress, but as ever in the field of science, we must and are continuing to conduct cutting-edge scientific research to help build a better tomorrow. Next slide, please. This chart shows the 6-month results from our 12-month clinical study of Glow, our tobacco heating product. The results at 6 months showed that switching to Glow resulted in statistically significant changes in several biomarkers of potential harm compared to continued smoking. The difference was statistically significant at 6 months of biomarkers for cardiovascular disease and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and cancer. There were favorable directional trends and markers predictive of cardiovascular disease risk, HDL and FEV1, for those who switched completely to Glow, with unfavorable trends in continued smokers. For the majority of the markers, the effect size was similar to that seen for smoking cessation. This meets the important criteria in terms of similarity to cessation proposed by the Institute of Medicine and is critical if we are to reduce risk and potential harm at a population level. Along with the findings of biomarkers of exposure, these data strongly suggest that the negative health impacts of cigarette smoking may be reduced in smokers who completely switch to Glow. Next slide, please. To put this in a broader context, in terms of showing the impact of tobacco harm reduction, the story begins with snus in Sweden, where males have been shown to have the lowest rates of smoking in Europe, as many consumers have switched to snus. Snus is a smokeless oral product containing 100% tobacco, which consumers usually place under their lip during usage. Because Swedish males have switched to snus for more than 30 years, public health scientists in Sweden have been able to track disease rates on a yearly basis. And today, Sweden has the lowest incidence of lung cancer in the whole of the European Union. We have been able to show that our modern oral products have even less toxicants than snus and are comparable to nicotine replacement therapy. One day, we hope to be able to have a chart like this for our Velo product, really demonstrating the delivery of long-term impact. Next slide, please. Through our consumer insights, we know that there are 3 motivations that account for 3/4 of the decisions for smokers to switch: a satisfying experience, the scientific substantiation that supports that these categories are reduced risk, which I've just shown you, and brands that provide choice and fit with their values. BAT is uniquely positioned to attract the greatest number of consumers through our multi-category strategy. This shows how our brands are building activities and people are switching. With an incremental £350 million invested in the first half of 2021, we are generating tangible results. And we are confident in achieving our 50 million non-combustible consumer target by 2030, a big step to delivering our purpose of building a better tomorrow. Thank you very much for allowing me the time to talk to you today and for all of your attention. Thank you.
Спасибо большое, Дэвид, за
Thank you very much, David,
открытую
for your very open and transparent position and for talking
курением.
about measures of smoking, but also I would like to say you that as a pulmonologist and as a doctor who works with lung pathologists, I see that
Таких заболеваний, как Хоббл, является как раз-таки
the reason of hobbles is smoking. If you are a man and you smoke cigarettes and you smoke for more than 20 years, of course you will never avoid a hobble, and you understand that if you smoke cigarettes or tobacco,
это заболевание непосредственно его каким-то образом обойдет.
you can't think that you will be able to avoid such a disease.
В России на данный
And also in Russia and
сосудистый
in general in the world,
атеросклероз лежит в основе, и
we see that such diseases are caused by cigarettes and smoking. We're talking about heart attacks, ischemic disease,
оказывает на это существенное
and we see that in most cases chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases are caused by smoking, just as cancer. Also, David mentioned alternatives, that they are looking for some alternatives.
Так скажем, курению, и действительно они
Alternatives for smoking, and they really exist. There are e-cigarettes,
получается
hookah,
так называемые.
vape, IQOS heating, tobacco heating devices. Producers say that somehow they are less harmful to people. But at the same time, we need to say that at this moment, there are no big research, and big research means big sampling. So people need to be diagnosed for many years, and in long term, if we see that if vapes or tobacco heating systems are less harmful, then this is okay, because smoking is actually is very harmful to your entire organism. But when it comes to alternatives, it's like choosing between where to live, at a chemical plant or metallurgy plant. What to choose? What is less dangerous? Like, this is less harmful and this is more dangerous, but in fact, any tobacco consumption, any inhaling of dangerous things such as smoke or vape, it's anyway destructive for your organism. The same is about aging, and this is the topic of our today's session, because actually tobacco smoking has a direct impact on aging, on the state of your skin, and many other things. Also, I would like to mention e-cigarettes. Recently in the US, a few years ago, a valley disease was opened. It's when your lungs are damaged due to e-cigarettes consumption, and this disease is dangerous because it's very difficult to diagnose it, because at least in Russia we don't have any methodologies of diagnosis apart from computer tomography. And secondly, it is very bad because we don't know how to treat this disease, because hormones therapy is used, and we are trying different approaches, but there are no clinical recommendations on how to cure this treatment. More importantly, young people suffer from this disease, because when it comes to tobacco smoking, it's mostly adults who suffer from it, but when it comes to e-cigarettes, it's more available and accessible for young people. So these vapes, IQOS, and cigarettes are consumed by school children. Also, you can remember, if you tried in school a cigarette, you get back home and your parents will hear the smell of tobacco. But if you are smoking e-cigarettes, there will be no tobacco smell, and parents won't ever know that their children are smoking. So that is the problem, that a group of those, the most vulnerable group of tobacco consumers is the children, and this is the most terrifying thing. And this is the most terrifying thing that we see from tobacco manufacturers. Also, I would like to talk to Aleksey Moskalev. He's a doctor of medical sciences, and I would like to talk to you, Alexei, and I would like to ask you, how do you think smoking impacts longevity?
Здравствуйте, Олег.
Hello, Oleg. With no doubts, tobacco smoking is one of the key factors and one of the main risks for chronic diseases. And I'm not just talking about pulmonary diseases, but also cardiovascular diseases, problems with microcirculation that has a direct impact on all bodies and tissues of our organism. So
разночтений быть не может.
There is no second opinion, in fact, but today I would like to talk to you about
Моих исследований
a topic of my researches that deal with the genetics of aging and longevity. So, and tell me, please, what, according to your researches, impacts directly on longevity and living standards of human beings? So, right here, right now.
Если ранжировать
So, if we
эффекты
arrange
на продолжительность жизни
effects on longevity,
процентов 70
70% will be
образ жизни
for the way you live
окружающей среды.
and your environment.
Это относится
Firstly,
к тому, как мы питаемся. То есть
it's how you eat, your eating habits, not just what you eat and how much, but also our regime of taking food.
достаточное количество физической нагрузки.
Also, it's all about physical exercises that you take or not take, and the way you live, the way you sleep, the way you relax, your stress management, whether we can cope with the stressful situations. On the second place goes
Что это генетические факторы.
genetical factors,
Роль не стоит переоценивать.
but don't overestimate their role. It's just 15% according to the entire population. That's the expected.
Есть так называемые долгожители, люди, живущие 90, 100.
Of course, there are long-living people who live
Наследственный фактор
90 years
более существенный.
or 100 years. So in that case, genetics has a,
Долгожители, она определяется
and in that case,
где-то на
your longevity
50 или даже 50%.
is defined by 40 or 50% by genetics.
Место, где живет человек.
Does it depend on the place where a person lives or other factors?
В Российской Федерации, допустим,
For example, in Russia Federation, in Ingushetia Republic is the leader of a lifespan.
непосредственно место
So how does the place of birth or place of residence can
Вы
influence it?
цитируете статистику по средней продолжительности жизни.
You are just talking about
Продолжительности жизни
average longevity, but I'm talking about longevity in general and about
категории граждан
lifespan of those who live 90 years or 100 years. But if we talk about average lifespan, on the first place is the way you live, then the way you eat or your eating culture.
в образ жизни стоит включать и
Of
вредные
course, we need to include bad habits into the way of life,
употребления алкоголя.
lifestyle in terms of tobacco consumption, alcohol consumption. I think that these factors play a very big role in our country. Among those 70%
На ожидаемую продолжительность жизни.
of your lifestyle to your lifespan. But anyway, if we compare
Продолжительность жизни средняя
expected lifespan of those who live in big cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg, so here the level of lifespan is just like in Europe. And I think we need to pay special credit to the fact that healthy lifestyle is getting more and more popular, at least in big cities, and also people tend to give up bad habits, and also they have access to better medicine. So after genetics, this is the third main point in terms of increasing our lifespan. Tell me please, Alexei, if we take the last 150 years, do we see that people really live longer and people's lifestyle is getting better? If we take just Russia, can we predict that in future we will live more and not less, and that our lifestyle will get better, not worse? Well, if we take expected lifespan in the Russian Empire before the revolution,
С одной стороны, соответствовало
on one hand, it corresponded to the European and US standards, but in general they were not very big. across the world, the values were around 40 plus years. But this relates to a very high death rate among children. Hygiene wasn't very well developed. Medicine wasn't at a very high level. And also some external factors influenced, like famine, infections, wars. They played a very big role on the lifespan back in the days. But there are other reasons, like a pandemic of chronic non-infection diseases. They are related to aging, diabetes, oncology, cancer, some other diseases. They impact on lifespan too. So the way you live and the way you eat, tobacco and alcohol consumption has an impact on it, but also internal reasons of aging exist as well. And in my presentation, you can read it from my presentation. Maybe we can mention them too. But these are evolution things, and what we can do with them, we can use different experimental approaches in different labs. But we won't get results soon.
Alexey, please tell us another thing. You've touched upon genetics as a key factor in extending longevity, one of the key factors. Can you tell me, please, is there a certain balance between the right lifestyle, like quitting smoking and drinking, and genetic predisposition to longevity? Is it possible to find this balance, to strike this balance, when a person has good genetics and avoids risk factors? Is he or she supposed to have a long and happy life? Yeah, thank you for the question. The answer can sound quite provocative, in fact, because if we look at those living more than 100 years, in general, they are not exactly fans of a healthy lifestyle. It's not that they are all smokers and drinkers, but statistically, they eat and move what they can, and sometimes they smoke even. Well, in cases where people live for more than 100 years despite smoking or drinking, well, mostly it's due to their genetic alleles related with elevated stress resistance. They can afford to drink and smoke. And, well, they are basically strong enough to counter the negative effect of drinking and smoking. And those effects generally occur in them 20 years later than in general people. And those of us who didn't have ancestors in several generations who lived more than 100 years, we should stick to a healthy lifestyle. That will give us a great boost in longevity and in quality of life. A healthy lifestyle does prolong your period of healthy living, and it increases your quality of life. Basically, you longer live better. This has to do also with the fact that the signal paths, signal routes, they are modified by nutrients from what we eat that affect us through epigenetic adjustment. And, well, habits like smoking, bad habits, they also activate the aging signal paths. So all these processes have a direct effect on the genetic program that we have inside us. That's epigenetics. Basically, how our lifestyle helps us live and how it determines our lives. We've been talking a lot about changing the lifestyle, but for a common person watching this stream, well, to them this sounds like a series of limitations and restrictions. You must not eat unhealthy food, you must not drink, you must not smoke, you must not do this, do that, and you must work out. So for a common person, for me as a practicing doctor, it's very difficult actually to convey to a person why at the age of 45 he or she must absolutely turn their lifestyle around. There are people who do this, but only usually after a disaster has happened. Usually when they are, well, brought into an IR unit on a stretcher, and after thrombolysis, they are basically recovered from an infarction, and this can make them change their lifestyle. But there are people who come to me or get hospitalized with a long history of smoking, with an obstructive lung disease, and they ask me, "Doctor, give me something to, well, to help me because I can't go up a flight of stairs without suffocating." And I tell him, "You need to get rid of cigarettes." And he says, "No, I can't quit this. I've been smoking for more than 40 years. Can you give me something else?" So basically, people always look for, well, magic pills. This is 21st century that we live in. And if we take 1940s, for example, recommendations regarding quality of life, they're basically the same as now. Some trends have changed, but it's the recommendations are the same. Consume less salt, more physical activity, healthy lifestyle, and so on. But since we're living here in the 21st century, are there some biohacks, things someone could do? When people want to live well, a free lifestyle, eat whatever they want, and still not age and feel as young as they are, as if they were 25. I think the first biohacker was this legendary strongman from Russian fairy tales, an immensely strong here who was living an absolutely healthy lifestyle without drinking. And he was indeed the first biohacker. And I didn't hear such stories in Europe or America. And with a history like this, how could we, well, how could we take the wrong path? So in the future, do you think in the future, will there be any developments that will help a person while maintaining the same lifestyle? Will we have certain pills that will allow us not to worry about longevity? Or will the healthy lifestyle always be the most determining factor? Well, too many questions, I think. Very many questions at once, but I think where we are today, lifestyle is, well, the determining factor of our healthy longevity. Yes, in laboratories we work on changing certain genomes or using pharmacological means or through therapeutical interventions. We are working on increasing the situation on the mental level. But this is a matter of very remote future. This is a matter of very remote future when it comes to actual application. And most biohackers, they understand this very well. So they're trying to combine interventions related to lifestyle and some latest developments at their own risk. And as for lifestyle, I'd like to say that yes, the so-called magical thinking prevails in many people who come to a nutritionist and say, well, help me lose weight, help me a magic pill, or give me 2 weeks of some magic diet that will help me get in shape by summer. The problem is that magical thinking doesn't help.
За свое здоровье
One needs to take responsibility for their own health.
здорово.
No doctor can become healthy on your behalf.
Можете только вы сами.
It's only up to you. You're the only one who can get your health back.
Нужно и начинать. То есть
And this is the understanding that should be fundamental. This is where we begin.
здоровье
I'm taking responsibility for my health in my hands, and from that moment on, I just need knowledge. I just need to know what healthy lifestyle is.
слово здоровое питание,
We all know the words healthy nutrition or healthy diet,
подходы,
but there are very different concepts and approaches to it.
может оказаться так,
There's so many different ideas.
Режимом питания.
And what could be a healthy diet for me could be lethal for a different person.
Обладать большими знаниями и
And it takes a lot of knowledge in genetics, in nutritiology, in physiology,
естественно, анамнез, сопутствующие заболевания,
some medical knowledge, age peculiarities, and so on.
Нужен такой биохакинг, который будет совместно
So here we need biohacking that would be done together with a doctor, either an or a nutritionist,
то есть
working hand in hand.
взял в свои руки ответственность
So after a person takes responsibility in their own hands, realizing
и
probably that, well, this can't continue anymore,
специалиста,
and then they find specialists, experts,
объяснит, что нужно делать именно
to provide information and recommendations, at least for the beginning of the journey. And there should be a certain checkup, functional tests, biochemical analysis.
в результате и генетический тест для того,
Maybe some genetic tests will be required.
чтобы это особенности, которые были выявлены в анамнезе. И, соответственно, персонализировать уже рекомендации.
And then they will be able to personalize recommendations regarding nutrition, lifestyle, physical loads, and so on.
Перестать
Quit
выпивать.
smoking, quit drinking, these are the fundamental things that will help everyone. And as for diet, work-life balance, stress management, sleep,
Такие ивенты
these are very individual things. And events like yours today is very important here, because through education, this is done through education, because many people just don't know some elementary things.
на путь обращения вспять возраста.
To step on the path of, well, turning back the changes in their bodies.
Медицина,
And it's only educational medicine
по крайней мере, мы знаем,
and explanations can help here. We know the example of Finland and
регион Финляндии, где
North Karelia,
на государственном уровне
a region of Finland where the states
здорового образа жизни
started propagating a healthy way of life.
закрываются кардиологические
And as far as I know, they've had cardiological centers closing down because they've become redundant in the country.
образ жизни.
Because having changed the lifestyle of people in a couple of decades,
Улучшение
they've arrived at a significant increase in the situation regarding cardiovascular diseases.
Существовало в СССР, когда
The situation is pretty similar than what we had in the USSR, where workers would be sent every year
и в Крым, да, и в Сочи.
to, well, sanatoriums, to southern,
То есть это на оздоровительные все вот эти.
to seaside resorts.
Была действительно пропаганда здорового образа жизни, то есть доктор
Besides, there was, well, big propaganda of a healthy lifestyle.
того, что у практикующего врача
And now, due to the fact that practitioners have very short timetables, very short times
недоверие от граждан
to receive patients, and maybe due to a certain lack of trust of people
же такую
to doctors, to practitioners,
Но с другой стороны и биохакинг, да? Биохакинг это же модно.
but at the same time, biohacking has been the buzzword recently. It sounds much easier than quit smoking, quit drinking. Biohacking sounds like you hack your body, changing something overnight.
Мне очень нравится ваша позиция.
But I really like your position that biohacking must be backed by a healthy lifestyle.
Войдет человек в это.
But the motivation with which a person enters it plays the most important role.
В лице биохакера, так называемого человека, обладающего медицинской...
And it's very important that biohackers
сказал Гиппократ, не
could,
навреди,
well,
потому что вы
had medical literacy,
так скажем, сыграть обратную роль. То есть
because otherwise biohacking can have very, well, opposite effect.
жизни, но оно
Because
должно...
biohacking means a change in lifestyle, but it must be sensible.
Если есть плохая генетика, вот,
But, well,
ваше
in
совершенно...
case of poor genetics, I'm really interested in this. For example, the person has a poor, well, genetic set, gene set,
Внезапно
that
сердечно-сосудистая
there are risks of sudden
дедушки была
cardio-related death, that,
у отца был инфаркт, а у мамы есть
like,
гипертоническая
his grandfather died from a heart attack, and his mother was hypertonic, and so on. So there's really bad,
непосредственно, ну, во-первых, чтобы
well, genes. What can they do about it? What can they do to postpone those risks?
со стороны генетического,
Genetically
как ему
determined diseases.
жизнь непосредственно, может быть, есть
And what can they do to, well, to live longer?
Ну, я думаю, что в случае генетических рисков
Well, I think in case of genetic risks, if there are genetic risks identified, I would recommend more frequent base checkups
наблюдать эту ситуацию,
to monitor the situation.
как бы наблюдая со стороны, этого недостаточно, нужно
But just monitoring it is not enough.
профилактических мер.
Well, there is the whole host of preventive measures that are available.
Рекомендаций, касающихся
And we know quite a lot of recommendations related to, well, the right diet, the right regime,
чтобы снизить риски и сахарного диабета
to
второго,
reduce risks of type 2 diabetes,
генетических изменений, нейрогенеративных.
well, sclerotic changes, degenerative changes.
Тем не менее, здесь нужно все персонально как
Well, it's very personal, it's very unique
бы. То есть я не хотел,
in every case, and I wouldn't want to generalize here.
потому что очень
I wouldn't want to go into general recommendations here,
взаимосвязано с общим
because
состоянием
there are
здоровья,
too many aspects tightly interconnected with the gastrointestinal tract,
потому что ведь недостаточно
lifestyle.
прописать правильную диету.
In most cases, it's not enough just to prescribe the right diet for a person. It's very important to implement this into a specific person's lifestyle.
Образ жизни ведущий, то есть нужно, чтобы
If it's a busy person,
получил знания, которые он сам
they should be educated and given the knowledge that they themselves will be able to apply, because you as a doctor will not be able to accompany them on business trips, on presentations, or
есть. То есть вы должны его снабдить некими знаниями, персонализировать эти знания,
your task is to give them certain set of knowledge,
может быть не полезно другому.
because what could be good for one person could be bad for another.
Наверное, еще нужен какой-то health coaching, то есть
So I think there is a need for a certain health coaching.
человеком
So sometimes this person should get back to his or her motivations, goals,
работает.
because external motivations only works for a short period of time.
Там, да, я с понедельника пойду в спортзал.
Like, yeah, I'm going to gym since Monday, and then Monday comes and nobody goes anywhere.
себя замотивировать, потому что не всегда угроза, да, то есть угроза, ну,
So how do people motivate themselves? Because imminent threats,
у вас риск сердечно-сосудистой,
like when a person is told that the risk of a cardio-related death is pretty high because
давление, потому что
they have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and they're genetically predisposed to that.
как бы напугал человека.
When they're told that, they're usually frightened.
Как замотивировать все-таки,
But
ну, практически,
how do we motivate them practically?
может быть, подтолкнуть к тому, чтобы
How do we, like,
измениться до
push
того,
them
как наступила катастрофа?
towards changing before the disaster actually breaks out?
Такая негативная мотивация, она работает.
Well, this negative motivation also works for a very short period of time again.
Нужно скорее выстраивать позитивный образ будущего, насколько ты будешь
I would rather recommend building a positive view of the future, how
лучшими когнитивными
how
способностями.
better performing people could be,
Если ты вот определенно
how they will look better if they
ведешь в свой ежедневный
observe certain rules
порядок дня, сделаешь по сути ритуалы
and implement,
образ жизни.
introduce certain rituals into everyday lives.
И именно через позитивный образ
Through
будущего,
positive view of future,
то есть
through search for, well, deep motivations,
тебе нужно было
like why would you need
снизить вес, да?
to lose weight?
Для того, чтобы получить в конце концов там повышение
Like to get a promotion, for example, or to become more successful in one's area. One needs to find this deep motivation and support it. Sometimes getting back to it and reviewing the motivation. For example, when a person wanted to lose weight by summer, when they succeed, they found out that they feel now so much better that they need to continue. Like seeing admiring glances from colleagues.
Даже просто быть более эффективным в той деятельности, потому что
Sometimes the reason could be just to be more efficient at what people do. Because metabolism determines our cognitive abilities.
Иногда даже сравнивают людей из топ Forbes, они...
Sometimes we look at people from the top of the Forbes list. Perhaps they're not the smartest or the luckiest or the most fortunate. It's just that they're most consistent. Without saying, I'm not in the mood for it today, or something like that. They're just consistent in going up towards their goals.
Не имеют либо генетических задатков, либо
While common people without a healthy lifestyle, they constantly have their ups and downs, find excuses, and so on. And they constantly have these cases of not feeling very well. So it's about playing long term. If we're losing weight, it's not here and now. These most weight-losing marathons, they mostly promise that in a month you're going to lose 7 kilograms, and basically a girl doesn't eat anything during that month. She works out, she's emotionally depleted, because she spends a month in complete restrictions, and then the month is over and she says, wow, at last I've lost weight, where's my chicken, where's my spaghetti, where are my burgers, Coke, and so on. And all that she's lost comes back, and it's a vicious circle. And you don't only get your weight back, but those changes of weight, they're very unhealthy for your body. And what do you think of biological additives, various herbs, and so on? Should we add them to the ratio? Because I have, examples of people who don't eat normal food, saying that all the food is, full of chemistry, and the biological additives, they are chemistry-free, they are 100% organic. And basically they can consume all the microelements and nutritives in biological additives. Well, I think that we should replenish the microelements, micronutrients we have through normal food. When it comes to biological additives, we should realize that the digestion is often done in certain chemical formulas, like vitamins or isomers, that, like key locks, they match our elements of metabolism. So in chemical products, there will be a mixture of various forms of this micronutrient. So chemically they are different and maybe not as suitable for our digestion. And very often vitamins and micronutrients should be taken in different combinations. For example, ferrum needs vitamin C to be digested. The same goes to, food products. It's a product of million years of evolution, and biological additives are not always the form that we can use them. And nutrients in biological additives are not always biologically accessible.
And talking about other people, if a product is healthy, and there are epidemiological researches on vitamin E, on beta-carotene, they are helpful in products, but when it comes to food supplements, they can lead to some other risky things. No, it's not applicable for everyone, but the risks are there.
Это связано с понятными вещами,
And
потому что для добавки легко
it's very easy to understand that sometimes you can overdose food supplement, or you can use a wrong form.
установленная форма.
Maybe it's just a restored form, which is not very healthy.
Большинство веществ находится в комплексе с большим
When it comes to natural products, they contain some antioxidants that do not oxidize some elements. So there are many other things. So to sum up, and thank you very much for your valuable opinion, Alexei. So I heard two very important facts. First is that food supplements are not a cure. It's not a medicine. They are not controlled at the production facilities. And when you buy this thing, you cannot be sure that it contains what is written on the label. You cannot be sure about dosing, and you cannot be sure that your organism will digest it properly. And if it is okay for someone else, it's not obligatory that it will be okay for you. Even this Mediterranean diet can be applicable for one person, but not for you. So that's why we need to have a personalized approach to every single person. Thank you very much, Alexei, for such a helpful and interesting speech on longevity, gerontology. Thank you very much, dear friends, for watching us. I'm hoping this was helpful. We need to limit somehow ourselves in bad products, in tobacco smoking, alcohol consumption, and try to get micro elements out of natural food, and don't substitute it with food supplements. Stay healthy.